She had no idea the old woman she just saved from public humiliation was about to change the entire course of her life. It started on a Saturday morning, the kind that smelled like fresh bread and cut grass at the Millbrook Farmers Market. Grace Bennett wasn't looking for trouble. She was looking for a job, any job, after her third interview that month ended with the same empty promise. "We'll call you." But trouble found her anyway. A few stalls down, a woman in designer heels was screaming at an elderly stranger who'd stumbled near her car. Words like pathetic and nursing home cut through the morning air like broken glass. Nobody moved. Nobody said a word. Except Grace. She didn't know the old woman's name. She didn't know where she lived, or who she belonged to, or why her hands trembled so badly when she tried to stand. All Grace knew in that one unguarded moment was that somebody needed to be kind. She had no idea that single act of kindness was being watched. And she had absolutely no idea that the woman she just defended was about to walk her straight into the life of a billionaire. The market was already crowded by 9 in the morning. Vendors called out prices. Crates of tomatoes and peppers lined the narrow aisles. And somewhere a radio played an old country song nobody was really listening to. Grace moved slowly between the stalls, her resume folder tucked under one arm, her interview clothes already wrinkled from the bus ride. She wasn't shopping. She was killing time before heading home to face her parents' hopeful faces and the same question she dreaded answering. That was when she heard the horn. Loud, sharp, impatient. A silver car crept through the pedestrian lane, far too close to the stalls, and an elderly woman, small, gray-haired, carrying a basket far too heavy for her frail arms, stumbled backward and fell hard onto the pavement. "Me leg." The woman gasped, clutching her side. "My chest. My blood pressure." The driver's door swung open. A young woman stepped out in heels that cost more than Grace's entire wardrobe, her sunglasses pushed up into perfectly styled hair. "Look what you've done to my car," she snapped, circling the vehicle, checking for scratches instead of checking on the woman she'd just knocked down. "My daughter. I didn't fall on purpose," the old woman said, her voice shaking. "That's what all of you people say." The woman's tone turned cruel. "At your age, still dragging groceries through a market. People like you should be in a nursing home, not blocking the road for someone who actually has somewhere to be." Nobody moved. A dozen people stood within arm's reach, and every single one of them looked away at their phones, at their shopping lists, at anything but the old woman lying on the ground. Grace didn't decide to help. Her body simply moved before her mind caught up. She dropped to her knees beside the woman, ignoring the mud soaking into her one good pair of interview slacks. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Can you sit up?" "I'm fine, sweetheart," the woman whispered, though her hands trembled badly enough to say otherwise. "She's fine," the driver scoffed. "And who exactly are you, some kind of market lawyer?" "No," Grace said, helping the woman steady herself. "I'm just someone who's tired of watching people treat others like they don't matter." The driver's face twisted. "Do you have any idea who you're talking to?" "No," Grace said calmly, "but I know how you're talking. And it isn't right." A few onlookers murmured in agreement. Someone near a fruit stand muttered, "She's telling the truth," just loud enough to be heard. The driver's cheeks flushed red with humiliation. "You'll regret this," she hissed, before storming back to her car and speeding off without so much as a backward glance. Grace turned her full attention back to the old woman. "Let's get you up slowly. Can you stand?" "Thank you, my dear," the woman said, gripping Grace's arm. "This world doesn't have many people like you left in it." What Grace didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that the woman she'd just knelt beside in the dirt, the one everyone else had walked past, was quietly studying her face, her voice, her heart. and filing every single detail away. The gate rolled open with a quiet hum, and the driveway unfolded like something out of a magazine, manicured hedges. A fountain catching the afternoon light. A house so large it seemed to swallow the sky behind it. Eleanor Whitfield walked through the front door, still wearing her torn, muddy dress, still carrying the faint bruise on her hip from the fall. A young man rushed down the staircase the moment he heard the door close. "Grandma, what happened this time?" Nathaniel Whitfield's eyes swept over her disheveled clothes, her scraped palm, the dried mud clinging to her sleeve. "You went out without Marcus again. Didn't you sit down?" "Nate," Eleanor said, easing herself into the nearest chair with a tired sigh. "Let me breathe before you start your interrogation." "Grandma." "Fine. Fine." She waved a hand. "I went to the market. Again. Dressed like this. Again." Nate exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. He was used to this, his grandmother, a woman worth more money than most people could imagine, slipping out in plain, worn clothing to walk among strangers who had no idea who she was. "Why do you keep doing this?" he asked. "You don't have to live like that. Even for an hour. I'm not suffering." "Sweetheart, I'm learning." "Learning what?" Eleanor's eyes softened, and for a moment she looked less like a billionaire's grandmother and more like a woman remembering something precious. "Today, I saw two kinds of people in the same 5 minutes. One had money, a beautiful car, expensive shoes, and not 1 ounce of kindness. The other had almost nothing. No name, no idea who I was, and she knelt in the mud without hesitation to help me." Nate leaned forward. "What happened out there?" Eleanor told him everything: the horn, the fall, the cruel words about nursing homes and dirty hands, and the young woman who dropped to her knees when everyone else looked away. She stood up to a total stranger, Eleanor said, for someone she owed absolutely nothing to. Nate sat back slowly. "That's rare. It's more than rare, Nathaniel. It's the kind of heart this family hasn't seen in a long time." Eleanor studied her grandson carefully. "Which brings me to something else." "Here we go." Nate muttered. "You are 32 years old. You have built an empire with your own 2 hands. And yet you come home to an empty house every single night." "Grandma, please." "I will not please. I'm old, and old women have earned the right to meddle." She straightened in her chair. "I want a good woman for you, Nathaniel. Not someone who loves your house. Not someone who only shines beside you for photographs. I want someone like the girl I met today." Nate was quiet for a long moment. "Grandma, before you go planning a wedding, you should know I'm already seeing someone." Eleanor's eyebrows lifted. "Since when?" "A few months now. And you didn't think to mention this. I wanted to be sure first." Eleanor studied her grandson's face. The way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes didn't quite meet hers. Whoever this woman was, something about her clearly didn't sit right, even before Nate said another word. "Tell me about her," Eleanor said quietly, "and Nathaniel, tell me the truth." "She's beautiful," Nate said, choosing his words carefully. "Confident. She knows how to carry herself. She has a huge following online. She's a fashion and lifestyle influencer." "Followers," Eleanor repeated flatly. "Does she influence good behavior? Or just good photographs, Grandma?" I asked a question. Nate sighed. "She can be a lot. Sometimes. Proud. But that's the industry. Honestly, she has to look important. Has to perform a certain lifestyle for the cameras. Looking important and treating people with cruelty are not the same thing." "Nathaniel." He didn't answer that. "Does she respect people who can't do anything for her?" Eleanor pressed. "Waitress. Drivers. Strangers on the street." The silence stretched a beat too long. "That silence," Eleanor said softly, "has already answered my question. She's not perfect, but nobody is. I think she can grow. Marriage isn't a repair shop for someone's character. My boy, it's a place where two whole people build peace together. If a person shows you trouble before the wedding, what do you imagine she'll show you after? Nate rubbed his temples. He was tired of being lectured, tired of being reminded of the last time he trusted someone completely and watched her walk away the moment his company hit hard times. Invite her here, Eleanor said suddenly. What, your girlfriend? Bring her tomorrow. Let me see her with my own eyes. Nate hesitated, then nodded slowly. Fina, tomorrow. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 the next evening. Baby, your house is stunning, Vanessa Calloway announced, breezing through the front door in a cream-colored dress and heels that clicked sharply against the marble floor. She barely glanced at the furniture before adding, though honestly, some of this could use an update. A little dated. Don't you think? Nate forced a smile. Vanessa, this is my grandmother. She practically raised me. Grandma, so lovely to finally, Vanessa's voice caught in her throat. Eleanor stood in the doorway of the sitting room, and for one long, "Si le maman," neither woman said a word. You, Eleanor said quietly. What? Vanessa's smile faltered. You're the one from the market, Eleanor said, her voice steady and cold. The one who nearly hit me with her car. The one who told me I belonged in a nursing home. Nate went still. What? Femme nut. Wait. Vanessa's confidence cracked wide open. I didn't know she was your grandmother. I thought she was just somewhat. Nate's voice dropped low. I was upset. My car had just been scratched. And you humiliated an elderly woman in the middle of a crowded market. Nate said slowly, each word landing like a stone. Because you thought there'd be no consequences. Not. Please. I can be dramatic sometimes. It's just part of who I am. Bad manners isn't a personality trait. Vanessa, I can change. I promise I can change. Good, Eleanor said calmly. Do it far away from this house. Vanessa's eyes darted to Nate, searching for rescue. Nathaniel, you're really doing this over one mistake. This isn't one mistake. Nate said, opening the front door. This is exactly who you are. Finally showing itself to me. You'll regret this. I already regret bringing you here at all. Vanessa's face shifted, the sweetness draining away, replaced by something sharper, colder. She straightened her shoulders, smoothed her dress, and looked at Nate one last time. You think you can throw me away like this and just walk off free, she said quietly. We'll see about that. The door closed behind her. Nate stood there a moment, jaw tight, before turning to his grandmother. Grandma, I'm sorry you had to see that. You didn't insult me. Nathaniel, Eleanor said gently. She did. What matters now is that you saw it too. Outside, in the driveway, Vanessa sat in her car for a long time before finally starting the engine, already thinking, already planning, already deciding that this was far from over. The car sputtered, coughed, and died right at the edge of the market road. Nate sat behind the wheel for a moment, staring at the dashboard warning light he'd been ignoring for 2 weeks. And sighed, of all the mornings, should I send Marcus with the other car? Sir, his driver asked through the phone. No, Nate said, stepping out onto the pavement. Send a mechanic. I'll wait here. He wasn't used to waiting anywhere without a driver, without a schedule, without somewhere urgent to be. But there was something oddly peaceful about standing on a cracked sidewalk with the smell of fresh bread drifting from a nearby stall. Watching the market wake up around him, that was when he saw her, a young woman in a simple blouse, helping a heavily pregnant woman carry 2 overstuffed grocery bags toward a waiting car, refusing to let go until the woman was safely settled inside. She didn't ask for anything in return. She didn't even seem to notice anyone was watching. Then she turned and helped a small boy struggling with a sack of peppers nearly as big as he was, laughing at something he said, ruffling his hair before sending him on his way. Nate found himself smiling before he realized he was doing it. "Good morning," he said. Once she'd finished and was passing near his car. "Good morning," she replied, glancing at him then at the hood of his car with mild curiosity. "I saw what you did back there," Nate said. With the pregnant woman, Grace shrugged, a little embarrassed. "It's just what anyone should do." That's not entirely true. Most people just walk past. "Well," she said, "you got to her before me. Technically, I got there second. You got there first." She smiled at that. And something about it easy. Unguarded. Real caught him off guard. "You're not from around here," she said, studying him for a moment. His shoes alone probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Is it that obvious?" "Very. My car broke down," he admitted, waiting on a mechanic. "Ah, sorry about that." "Thank you. What's your name, Grace?" "Grace Bennett." Nate paused, something flickering behind his eyes, a name his grandmother had mentioned once. Briefly, in passing, he decided not to say anything yet, not until he was certain. "Nice to meet you." "Grace. I'm Nate. Nice to meet you too." "Nut. So what do you do?" "Mister. Broken down car business. Everyone in this city says business." She crossed her arms, amused. That's the answer rich people give when they don't want to explain themselves. Maybe I just don't know how to explain it simply, or maybe you don't want to. You're sharp. I studied business administration. "Actually," she said, "for all the good it's done me, I'm still job hunting." "What would you do?" "If you had the resources." Grace's expression shifted softer, more thoughtful. "I'd open a small shop. Nothing huge. Just a clean, simple place where people could grab fresh ingredients for dinner without wandering through a crowded market after a 10-hour shift. Something easy. Something that makes their day a little lighter." "That's a good idea." "I know it is," she said. "Good ideas without money are just daydreams." "Though, not always," Nate said quietly. Before she could respond, a mechanic's truck pulled up behind his car. Grace glanced toward it, then back at him. "Looks like your ride's here." "Yeah." He didn't move. "Will I see you again?" Grace raised an eyebrow. "Do you ask every stranger that?" "No." Nate said simply, "Just you." She studied him for a long moment, unsure whether to laugh or take him seriously. "My mother sells produce just down that row. If you're ever back this way, I'll be back this way." As she walked off toward her mother's stall, Nate stood by his car a moment longer than necessary, watching her go, a strange and unfamiliar feeling settling in his chest. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he was smiling, and he had absolutely no idea why it felt so easy. "You look different," Eleanor said, watching her grandson pour 2 cups of tea with an odd little smile he clearly wasn't aware of. "Different how?" "Like a man whose face isn't fighting the whole world for once." She set her cup down. "Who did you meet outside?" Nate hesitated, then gave up pretending. "Her name is Grace. My car broke down near the market. I watched her help a pregnant woman carry groceries, then help a little boy with a sack of peppers he could barely lift. She didn't know I was watching. She wasn't doing it for anyone's benefit." Eleanor went very still. "Grace. You said Grace Bennett. That's the same name as the young woman who helped me the other week," Eleanor said slowly. "The one from the market. It could be a coincidence," Nate said, though something in his chest already doubted it. "There's only one way to find out." Eleanor reached for her cane. "I want to see her too. As yourself. This time. As the woman she helped." Eleanor said. Nothing more. 2 days later, a car pulled up outside a modest produce stall, and a woman stepped out plainly dressed, exactly as she'd been the day of the fall. "Mama Kimmy," Grace said, breaking into a genuine smile. "You came back. I told you I would." Eleanor studied the girl carefully, the tired eyes, the flour dust on her sleeve from helping her mother, the warmth that hadn't dimmed at all despite weeks of hardship. "Grace, will you come see me tomorrow? At my house." "Your house," Grace laughed softly. "Mama, I hope it's not far. Bus fare isn't exactly generous these days." "Not far at all. Sweetheart. Come. You'll understand when you see it." The address led Grace to a neighborhood she'd only ever driven past on the bus wrought iron gates. Trimmed lawns, houses the size of small hotels. She checked the address twice, certain she'd made a mistake. A staff member greeted her at the door. "Miss Bennett, please. Come in." Grace stepped into a foyer larger than her family's entire apartment, her stomach twisting with confusion. "I think there's been some kind of mix-up. I'm looking for Grace." She turned. Nate stood at the top of the staircase, looking almost as stunned as she felt. "You," Grace said slowly. "You live here." Before he could answer, Eleanor appeared from the sitting room, dressed simply as always, her expression gentle. "My daughter. Welcome. Come. Let me explain everything." Grace sat frozen on the edge of an armchair as the truth unfolded. Eleanor wasn't a struggling widow scraping by on market days. She was Eleanor Whitfield, one of the wealthiest women in the state, who dressed plainly and walked among strangers because she wanted to see people's true character when they thought no one important was watching. "So it was a test," Grace said quietly, something cold settling in her chest. "This whole time." "Not a test, sweetheart," Eleanor said. "I was watching. I wanted to see your heart, not your manners in front of money. I didn't know there was anything to see." Grace said, "I didn't know any of this." "I know you didn't," Nate said gently, stepping closer. "I promise you. I had no idea who you were either. My car really did break down. I really did just meet you." Grace pressed her palms against her knees, trying to steady the spinning in her head. "This is a lot. I understand completely," Eleanor said. "If you want to leave right now, no one will stop you. But please sit a while first. Have something to drink." Grace stayed, mostly out of politeness, and slowly the shock gave way to something calmer. "I want to give you something," Eleanor said eventually, "for everything you did for me that day." "No. Mom, please don't. You haven't even heard what it is." "It doesn't matter what it is," Grace said firmly. "I didn't help you because I wanted something back. If I accept a gift now, it'll feel like my kindness turned into a transaction. I won't sleep right knowing that." Eleanor studied her for a long moment, and something in her weathered face softened into quiet admiration. "She's not performing," she said, almost to herself. "She actually means it." "I do," Grace said. "I respect what you're offering. Truly. But I need to just be Grace. Not a story you tell at dinner parties. That's more than fair," Nate said. Something in his voice had changed steadier, more certain than before. As the driver walked Grace to the gate that evening, Nate insisted on accompanying her. "I'm sorry about all of this," he said. "You didn't ask for any of it." "No," Grace admitted, "but I don't regret helping her. Not for a second. Your world and mine are pretty different," she added quietly, glancing back at the mansion behind them. "I don't need you to fit into my world." Nate said, "I just want the chance to know you. The real you, the one I met before any of this." "Not," Grace said carefully. "Words like that can be dangerous. They can confuse a person Then I'll slow down, he said. But I'm not going anywhere. As Grace disappeared down the street, Nate stood at the gate a moment longer, a strange certainty settling over him, one he hadn't felt in years. Since long before he'd stopped believing this kind of thing was even possible. Grace, what happened, her mother called from the kitchen the moment she walked through the door. Mama Kemi isn't poor, Grace said, still slightly dazed. She lives in a mansion. She's not a struggling widow. She's Eleanor Whitfield. Her father set down his newspaper. The Whitfield family, the ones who own half the shopping centers downtown, that's her grandson's company. Grace sank into a chair. And apparently, I met her grandson too. A few days ago, his car broke down near the market. Wait. Her mother's eyes went wide. The handsome one. You mentioned the businessman. Grace groaned into her hands. Yes. Mama. That one. So you like him, her mother pressed, unable to hide her smile. I don't know. Maybe. I like him, but I'm scared. I don't want anyone thinking I only care because of who his family is. Her father reached over, resting a steady hand on her shoulder. Then don't rush. Sweetheart, if it's real, it won't disappear just because you take your time. 3 days later, the doorbell rang. Nate Grace blinked at him standing on her front porch, holding a small basket of fruit like an offering. What are you doing here? I came to properly meet your parents, he said. I figured showing up unannounced with groceries might be less terrifying than an actual formal visit. You should have told me you were coming. I didn't want you spending the whole morning worrying. So you knew I'd worry. I had a feeling, he admitted, smiling. Her father appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, studying the young man on his porch with the unmistakable expression of a father sizing someone up. You're Nate, yes. Sit down. The conversation that followed was careful, honest, occasionally uncomfortable, her father asking pointed questions, Nate answering each one without flinching. If you took away the money, her father said finally, what kind of man would you be? Still learning. Sir, Nate said quietly, I've made mistakes, trusted the wrong people, judged too quickly before I really knew someone, but I'm trying to become better every day. Her father studied him a long moment, then nodded once. That's not a bad answer. Thank you. Sir. Nate turned to Grace. There's something else I wanted to ask you. What you told me about your dream. The shop. Nate, let me finish, he said gently. I want to help you open it. No. Grace shook her head immediately. Absolutely not. You haven't heard the terms yet. I've heard enough. I don't want free money. Nate. I don't want to be someone people whisper about. Then it isn't free money, he said. It's a partnership. I invest. You run everything, the name, the decisions, the work. All of it belongs to you. We put it in writing, clean and clear, so there's never any confusion about what this is. Grace hesitated, searching his face for any hint of pity or performance, and found none. Why would you do this? Because I believe in your idea. It's a genuinely good business. Grace. And I happen to be a fairly decent businessman. Despite herself, she laughed. Don't get ahead of yourself. We're still just discussing terms, he said, grinning. Don't smile too much yet. The little shop came together faster than Grace ever imagined. A clean, welcoming storefront, with fresh produce arranged neatly along wooden shelves. Her name painted carefully above the door. I still can't believe this is real, she said one afternoon, running her hand along the countertop. Believe it, Nate said. You've got work to do now. I won't waste this, she promised. I mean that. I know you won't. Weeks passed. Nate found himself dropping by more often than any investor reasonably should, helping arrange crates. Learning the difference between fresh and dried peppers, absorbing every small lesson Grace offered without complaint. "You're staring again," she said one morning, catching him watching her work. "I'm learning." "Learning what?" "People," he said. "You. This whole world you've built out of almost nothing." That evening, over a quiet dinner she'd insisted, didn't need to be expensive, Nate told her about his parents gone too soon, the empty years that followed, the grandmother who raised him with equal parts sternness and love. "She's the reason I'm still standing," he admitted. "She loves you deeply," Grace said softly. "I know. My parents aren't wealthy," she offered in return. "My father worked security for years. My mother's sold food from a cart my whole life. But they taught me never to look down on anyone, no matter how little someone has." Nate reached for her hand across the table. And for once, neither of them said anything clever or guarded. "Grace," he said quietly, "I love you." She looked up, steady and sure. "I love you too." Not. Outside, neither of them noticed the shift already stirring in the city, a woman scrolling through photos of the two of them together, jaw tightening with every image, already deciding this happiness would not be allowed to last. "Baba, are you seeing this?" Vanessa's friend turned her phone around, the screen glowing with a photo of Nate and Grace laughing outside the little produce shop. "They're saying he opened a whole store for her." Vanessa's jaw tightened. "He thinks he can throw me away and just move on to her. Maybe you should just let it go." Her friend offered carefully. "Let it go," Vanessa's voice sharpened. "After he humiliated me in front of his entire family," she stared at the photo a moment longer, something cold settling behind her eyes. "Femi hasn't seen anything yet. He wants to trade me for a market girl with a tomato crate. Fine. Let's see how long that lasts." By the following afternoon, a video had already begun circulating grainy footage of Grace at her shop, paired with a caption dripping in false sympathy: "Sweet, humble market girl," or "gold digger who trapped a billionaire." The comments multiplied by the hour. She probably planned this from the start. Poor people always have an angle. Bet she helped that old woman on purpose. Grace's phone buzzed relentlessly until she finally turned it face down and left it in her bag. "Simi, I mean." "Grace," her mother said, catching sight of a neighbor's phone screen over someone's shoulder in the market. "Is it true? What they're saying, Mama? Please. Not right now. What do you want me to think I know the truth?" Grace said quietly, steadying herself against the counter. "That's what matters. I know. Sweetheart. But people love bad news more than good news. It travels faster. Then let it travel," Grace said, straightening her shoulders. "I'm not closing this shop because of a stranger's jealousy. If I do that, she wins." Her mother studied her face, the tired eyes, the forced calm, and said nothing more. Only reached over and squeezed her hand. Word reached Nate by mid-morning. "Have you seen it?" he demanded, already halfway out the door. "I've seen it," Grace said calmly over the phone. "I'm fine." "You are not fine. Grace, I want my lawyers to send her a formal letter today." "No. Not to. Please. Don't. She's spreading lies about you. Publicly. I know what she's doing," Grace said. "But if we come at her with lawyers and threats, people won't remember the lie. They'll remember a rich man's lawyers going after a woman who criticized his girlfriend. Let my work speak first. I can't just stand back and watch someone hurt you." "You're not standing back," Grace said gently. "You're standing beside me. There's a difference." Still, when Nate arrived at the shop that afternoon, his jaw was tight with restrained anger. Eleanor was already there, seated in the corner with her cane resting against her knee. watching the small crowd of customers who'd gathered, some out of curiosity, some out of quiet loyalty. "Grandma, I want to deal with her myself." "Calm yourself." "Nathaniel," Eleanor's voice was steady, unshaken. "If you fight this with anger..." The story becomes, rich man defends girlfriend against jealous woman. Grace disappears from her own story entirely. Then what do? We let truth do what truth always does eventually. Eleanor said, "It moves slowly, but it never dies." Behind the counter, Grace kept working, weighing tomatoes, counting change, thanking each customer by name, her hands steady even as her eyes, just for a moment, betrayed how much it all cost her to keep smiling. A woman near the register leaned toward her friend and whispered, "Just loud enough to carry, that's the girl everyone's talking about. She seems awfully calm for someone supposedly guilty of something." Grace said nothing. She simply kept working, refusing to let the storm outside decide who she was. But even as the afternoon crowd began to thin, a quiet, dangerous plan was already taking shape, one that had nothing to do with rumors, and everything to do with something far more damaging still to come. Marcus, the young man startled at the sound of his name, turning to find Vanessa standing near the back entrance of the shop, sunglasses pushed up, an envelope in her manicured hand. "You work for Grace. Don't you run errands? Handle deliveries?" "Sometimes," Marcus said cautiously. "Can I help you with something?" "Ma'am, you can..." She held up the envelope. "There's an engagement ceremony coming up soon. Grace and Nathaniel. I heard something about that." "Yes. I need you to place this inside her bag during the ceremony." She opened the envelope just enough to reveal a delicate diamond bracelet nestled inside tissue paper. Marcus stared at it. "Ma'am, I don't understand what you're asking." "It's simply, you slip it into her bag. That's all. I'll take care of the rest." "That's no. I can't do that. That's dangerous." Dangerous. Vanessa's smile was thin and sharp. "You're only placing an object inside a bag. Nothing more. There's considerably more money where this came from. If you're worried about the risk..." Marcus hesitated, torn between conscience and the weight of unpaid bills sitting on his kitchen table at home. "What exactly happens after I do it? That's not your concern. Just do your part and walk away." He swallowed hard. "What if someone catches me? No one suspects the boy who stocks shelves." Vanessa said coolly, "You're invisible to people like them. That's exactly why you're perfect for this." The silence stretched long enough that Vanessa arched an eyebrow. "Or should I find someone else willing to earn this money instead?" "No," Marcus said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll do it." "Good." Vanessa pressed the envelope into his hands. "Once they find that bracelet in her bag, nobody will ever look at her the same way again. Not as the sweet market girl, not as Nathaniel's fiancée, just a thief who fooled an entire family." She turned and walked away without another word, already smiling at the thought of what was coming. What Vanessa didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly accounted for, was that Marcus had been standing close enough to a small security camera mounted above the shop's back door for every word to be captured clearly. That evening, Nate's phone buzzed with a message from his head of security. He watched the footage twice, his hands tightening around the phone with each replay. "Sir." His assistant's voice was careful, measured. "It's serious. She's planning to plant the bracelet during the engagement ceremony itself." Nate's jaw clenched. "She wants to humiliate Grace in front of everyone who matters to us." "I know." "Sir, should I call her? Confront her now?" "No," Eleanor said from the doorway, having heard enough to understand everything. "If you confront her now, she'll simply deny it and wait for another opportunity. We need her to expose herself completely, in front of witnesses." In her own words, "Grandma, I can't let Grace be humiliated at her own ceremony." "She won't be," Eleanor said calmly. "Not if we're careful." Call Grace's father. Tell him only what he needs to know, enough to be prepared. Not enough to cause panic. We protect Grace, but we also let Vanessa walk fully into her own trap. I don't like this plan. Nate admitted. Neither do I, Eleanor said, but sometimes the only way through a storm is to let it break completely, so the sky can finally clear. The morning of the ceremony arrived bright and warm. String lights already strung across the garden. White chairs arranged in careful rows. Grace stood in front of the mirror, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress. Her heart hammering against her ribs. "You're shaking," her mother said gently, adjusting a loose curl near her daughter's face. "I'm trying not to," Grace admitted. "Today feels too good to be real. Good things are allowed to happen to you too. Sweetheart." Her mother took both her hands. "Now stop hiding in here. Today is your day." Outside, guests were already arriving, unaware that somewhere among the smiling faces, a carefully wrapped bracelet was waiting, and a woman who believed she was about to destroy everything Grace had built. The garden looked like something out of a dream string, lights glowing gold against the early evening sky. Soft music drifting between rows of white chairs. Laughter rising from clusters of guests holding champagne glasses. Grace stood near the center of it all, her hand resting in Nate's, allowing herself, just for a moment, to believe the storm of the past weeks had finally passed. Then the music faltered. "Well," a voice rang out across the garden. "Isn't this a lovely little gathering?" Heads turned. Vanessa stood at the edge of the aisle, dressed sharply in black. Every eye in the garden now fixed on her. "Vanessa." Nate's voice went flat. "What are you doing here?" "I came to save this family from a mistake," she said, stepping closer, her heels clicking against the stone path. "Before you marry this girl, Nathaniel, I think you should check her bag." "Excuse me," Grace's stomach dropped. "My bracelet," Vanessa said, loud enough for every guest to hear. "It's missing, and I have reason to believe it's somewhere very close by." "Vanessa, be very careful," Eleanor warned from her seat. "No, you should be careful," Vanessa snapped, turning to Grace. "You're about to marry a thief." "I don't know what you're talking about," Grace said, though her pulse had begun to race. "Of course you'll say that." Vanessa's smile was cold. "That's exactly what people like you always say." "This is absurd," Nate said. "Why would she steal from you? What possible reason?" "Because that's what people like her do." Vanessa cut in. "They play humble. They play sweet. And then they take what was never theirs to take." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Grace felt her face heating, her hands trembling at her sides. "Someone saw her," Vanessa continued. "Someone saw exactly what she did." "Who saw me?" Grace demanded, her voice finally sharp. "Because I know for a fact I never touched anything of yours." Eleanor rose slowly from her chair, steadying herself on her cane. "Are you certain you want to continue this?" "Vanessa, absolutely," Vanessa said. "Let everyone here see exactly who they're really welcoming into this family." "Very well." Eleanor nodded toward the small speaker system set up near the seating. "My son, let them hear it." A hush fell over the garden as a recording crackled to life through the speakers. "There's an engagement ceremony coming up soon. I need you to place this inside her bag during the ceremony. Once they find that bracelet in her bag, nobody will ever look at her the same way again." Vanessa's face drained of color. "That recording is fake. That's manipulated audio. It's your voice." "Vanessa," Nate said quietly, "every word." A young man near the back of the garden stepped forward, visibly shaking. "Please," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry. She gave me money. She told me exactly what to do, and I was foolish enough to listen." Grace's father stood abruptly, Inside my daughter's bag. You put something inside my daughter's bag, I did. Marcus admitted, tears welling in his eyes. I put it there myself. Please, forgive me. The garden had gone completely silent. Every guest watching the scene unravel in real time. You lost this family because of your own cruelty, Nate said, turning to Vanessa, his voice steady but unmistakably final. And now you've lost your dignity along with it. Nate. I was angry. Ino, he said. You were vicious. There's a difference. Vanessa's composure finally cracked completely. You think you've won, she said, glancing at Grace with pure venom. You think this changes anything? I was never fighting you, Grace said quietly, steady despite everything. I never needed to. Grace's father stepped forward, his voice low and firm. I think it's time for you to leave. Vanessa opened her mouth to argue, glanced around at the sea of disapproving faces, and found no allies left among them. Without another word, she turned and walked briskly toward the gate, her heels echoing sharply against the silence until she disappeared entirely. Eleanor allowed the quiet to settle for a long moment before speaking, her voice carrying gently across the garden. Money is not the problem, she said. Poverty is not the problem. Character is the real wealth a person carries. A poor woman can hold a rich heart. A wealthy woman can hold an empty one. But a proud, cruel heart will always expose itself eventually, in front of exactly the people it hoped would never see. She turned toward Grace and Nate, her eyes glistening. I bless this union. May your home never be built on lies. May no jealousy ever break what real love has joined together. The garden erupted in quiet applause, tension dissolving into something warmer, lighter relief, settling over the crowd like the last light of the evening sun. Grace exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks, Nate's hand tightening around hers. It's over, he whispered. No, Grace said softly, allowing herself, finally, to smile. I think this is where it actually begins. Weeks later, under a canopy of fairy lights strung across the same garden where the truth had once come crashing down, Nate knelt in front of Grace, his hands trembling for the first time since she'd met him. Grace Bennett, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You walked into my life, covered in market dust, asking nothing of me, expecting nothing in return. You didn't come with noise. You didn't come with pride. You came with kindness, and it changed everything. I thought I knew about people. Grace pressed a hand to her mouth, tears already falling. I'm not choosing you because you're perfect. Nate continued, I'm choosing you because your heart gives me peace. I didn't know I was still capable of feeling. So will you marry me? Yes, Grace whispered, then laughed through her tears. Yes. Nate. 1,000 times. Yes. The garden erupted in applause. Eleanor sat quietly among the guests, watching the two people she loved most in the world wrapped in each other's arms, her eyes shining with something that looked a great deal like peace finally settling into place. My work here is done, she murmured to herself, because in the end, this was never really a story about money, or mansions, or the cruelty of a jealous woman. It was about a single, unguarded moment in a crowded market, one girl choosing to kneel in the mud for a stranger who could offer her absolutely nothing in return. Kindness, given freely, without an audience, without a reward. That is the rarest currency in this world, and it is always, eventually, recognized. If this story moved you, don't scroll away in silence. Hit that subscribe button. Tell us in the comments which moment hit you the hardest. And share this with someone who still believes that good hearts win in the end. Because they do.